Hello， 大家好，我是利恩。今天啊，我们又要来进行吃播啊，不是，是我们又要来看这个英国以辛辣风格著称的主持人 Piers Morgan 呢，他邀请了一位呢是在英国称之为动物反叛组织的领袖 Colin 小姐。那组织是一群就提倡吃素食，好，然后呢，希望政府呢取消畜牧业这样子为主，以支持这个碳排放量减碳的这样的一个诉求的组织。那因为在2022年的那个时候，时任的英国首相呢是英国历史上寿命最短，只有2个月的 Liz Truss， 就是丽兹特拉斯女士。那 Liz Truss 呢，那个时候尽管只有短短2个月的任期，他就下台了，但是呢，他仍然提出了一系列的环保政策，主要是废除或者说修改了570项原本英国呢继承自欧盟的环境法律。那些法律本来是保护一些自然保护区免受破坏等等，但是呢，拉斯政府呢，他们想要去延迟或者说取消这种基于这个保护自然而非土地所有量的这个农业补贴的计划，对于很多的提倡素食为主的素食环保人士感到非常愤怒。他们认为这样做是不公平的，而且呢，不但你可能会破坏的更多的自然资源，最重要就是他们始终都希望政府能够全面的来等于说取消或者说废止这个所谓畜牧业所以他们在2022年9月7号的时候呢，他们就我们都知道英国这个最有名的地标就是大笨钟，他们就在上面涂白漆以用假牛奶的方式来对这个奶制品行业来进行抗议。那我们的 Piers Morgan 主持人呢就又不爽啦所以呢就特别把这一个 Colin 小姐呢给请上来，想要来访问她，就是你们这个抗议这种激进的方式对我们到底产生了什么正面效果？好，那我们呢就一起来看这个有趣的节目内容吧。那大家容许我呢也是一样陪着大家静静的观赏。那我同时呢享用我的刚买回来的这个麦当劳餐千万不要误会我绝对不是要讽刺素食环保主义者的 Colin 女士，我只是刚好刚买完麦当劳那希望多包涵，而且我买的是麦香鱼，好不好？不是牛肉，好不好？所以呢不要骂我。 OK let's go。
Well, hungry vegans targeted Big Ben today, spraying white paint outside the Houses of Parliament ahead of Liz Truss's first Prime Minister's questions. The Animal Rebellion protest group says the white paint symbolises milk and was intended to represent the destruction of the dairy industry. Also represents, of course, petulant vandalism and the destruction of a historic building. It's the 4th day of action from the group, who've also cleared milk from the shelves of supermarkets in 4 different cities. They say they're aiming to force Liz Truss to the negotiating table, but are they in fact just annoying the hell out of all of us? Well, joining me now is a spokesman for Animal Rebellion, Orla Coughlin, who was at the protest at Big Ben earlier today. Good evening to you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Why would chucking paint all over Big Ben persuade someone like me to give up meat?
Yeah, so as you and your viewers probably know, we're in a climate and ecological emergency at the moment. And so what we're doing is we're asking the government to support farmers and fishing communities in a transition to a plant-based food system, because we know that animal agriculture is a leading cause of the climate crisis. And so if we transition to a plant-based food system, we can free up vast amount of land in the UK, we can rewild, and we can draw carbon down.
Okay, look, that's all fine. That wasn't my question. My question is, why does chucking paint over Big Ben, why does desecrating Trafalgar Square with red dye, chucking milk around Harrods, destroying supermarket shelves and so on, how does that persuade me, who already likes eating meat? Why are you going to persuade me by being a vandal? Don't get it.
Yeah, I think we're in an incredibly difficult position at the moment, because we've been...
Why are you making it any easier?
Because we've been trying to talk about these things now for a very long time. And so we're at a point where we need to escalate protest so we can gain more media attention on the subject, and we can bring
I don't know anyone you
persuade.
I haven't heard anyone go, you know what, I was a meat eater and I saw Big Ben being desecrated, this great monument of this country, and I thought, I know what I'll do. I'm going to go and give up meat and start eating gruel. I haven't heard a single human being say that. Why would they?
I think the purpose of protest is not necessarily to win over people. It's to bring these...
To annoy us?
To bring these important conversations to the table.
Yeah, but we know the conversation. You're a vegan, right? I'm a meat eater. Why can't we just both live happily in each other's orbit? Why can't you let me just get on with eating meat and you eat your gruel, and we're all go home happy.
Because we know animal farming and fishing are a leading cause of the climate crisis.
And we know having a strictly vegan diet is bad for you as well.
Well, that's not true.
A lot of science says it's bad for you.
That's not true.
It is true.
Oh,
What do you eat?
I eat...
do you eat almonds? Do you drink almond milk? Eat almonds?
I think you're digressing from
I'm just asking a question.
the big issue.
I'm just curious what you eat. Do you eat almonds?
I'm here to talk about the climate crisis.
Answer my question. Do you eat almonds or drink almond milk?
30 million people in
Do
Pakistan
you drink almond milk?
have been affected by severe floods.
Do you drink almond milk?
I drink plant-based milk.
You do. And do you eat avocados?
I eat a plant-based diet.
Do you eat avocados?
We're asking the government...
Do you eat avocados? Yes?
A leading study from...
Do you eat... It's an interview. You don't just answer different questions. Do you eat avocados?
I eat a plant-based diet, which
Do you eat avocados?
Yes.
Yes? You do. Great. Do you know how avocados and almonds get made?
Absolutely.
You do.
Yes.
So you realise that in California, every year, for 6 weeks, they fly in billions of bees to create your almonds and avocados. And in that process, several billion bees get murdered. This is a bee. Right? That's a bee. That, last time I checked, is a living animal. Billions get slaughtered so that you, sitting here, pontificating in between smashing up our buildings, so that you can have your almonds and your avocado. And I say to you, why don't you care about the little guys?
Can I say that the...
It's total hypocrisy, isn't it? You don't care about bees being murdered?
Will you let me speak, Piers?
Huh?
Will you let me speak?
Why are you laughing? It's not funny.
I'd like to respond.
Bees getting slaughtered and you giggling away like it doesn't matter whilst destroying buildings because you care so much about animals. You don't care about the little guys, do you?
I'm laughing because I'd like to answer your question, and I've been brought on the show to answer your question, so I'd really appreciate being allowed
You're never going to persuade me because I think you're a hypocrite, like a lot of vegans I've met. You can all be as hangry as you like and not have meat. I don't believe in the science of a strictly vegan diet. If vegan diets worked, a lot of animals wouldn't eat other animals.
Do you believe in the climate crisis?
Yes.
Well, the animal agriculture, farming and fishing is a leading cause of the climate crisis.
You know what's also a leading cause of climate crisis? Planes which carry vast amounts of your avocados and your almonds from California and fly them thousands of miles to your table here in your vegan cafes. And then they also go in trucks. And that is an environmental hazard too. So you're not only are you killing billions of bees, you're destroying the planet. And yet you have the brass neck to sit here in between munching your almonds and your avocados and start preaching to me about how virtuous you are about not killing animals and saving the planet. I'm like, hang on, you're destroying the planet and you're killing billions of bees.
I
don't get it.
Can I respond?
And you're wrecking Big Ben.
Can I respond?
And Trafalgar Square, and you're breaking up Harrods.
I hear that you're very frustrated.
No, I just find it such absurd, hypocritical nonsense. I honestly do.
I would really like to respond to that.
Go on then.
So a leading study from Oxford, which is the most comprehensive study on food and the climate that has ever been done before, has said that animal products, that's farming, animals and fishing, is the leading cause.
Is a bee an animal?
I'm not finished, sorry. It surpasses...
Ola, is a bee an animal?
It surpasses...
Is a bee an animal?
Piers,
Is a bee an animal?
It surpasses all...
Ola,
all plant-based options.
Is one of these things an animal?
Of course a bee is an animal.
If a bee is an animal, why are you slaughtering them?
Why are you not talking about the most important issue that is facing our planet
Because
today?
It's rank hypocrisy.
It is not hypocrisy.
I meet so many vegans who devour avocados and almonds and don't seem to realise it involves the slaughter of billions of bees.
Both almonds and avocados are less damaging to the planet.
Oh, they're less damaging. And what about how they get flown here from California? What about how they get trucked across Europe?
That study in Oxford, that is exactly what it is
about.
Killing
the planet. No, anyway, look, I'm starving and you're not going to persuade me. And my response to you destroying all these things is to have a Big Mac. Because you know what? It's a free country, it's a democracy, and I'm allowed to eat meat, and I'm certainly allowed to eat meat when someone who kills bees to feed their avocado habit minds.
What we're asking is for the government to support...
好，我们刚刚已经看完了。那我必须说哈，我发现我错了，因为刚刚 Colin 小姐其实提到，就是说，按照牛津大学的一项研究表明，造成全球 温室效应哈，最大的危害一个是养殖业，一个是渔业。那我就发现，那我吃麦香鱼的目的就不对了哈。我以为我是在减少畜牧业的这个部分哈，就没想到渔业也中标，哇，糟糕！看来啊，只能吃薯条。好，那我们刚刚看到的呢，我想发表一点看法哈。第一个是我不得不说哈，这次 Piers Morgan 主持人哈。我觉得他的发言确实是不够尊重来宾啊，因为他屡次的去打断了 Colin 女士的谈话啊，那他也没有给对方足够时间来陈述他自己的观点啊。但是呢，反过来的一个我觉得比较值得实质去探讨的问题，就是说，到底环保人士现在很多针对所谓畜牧业所带来的这个气体排放的污染啊，或者说这个环境气温啊温度的升高，到底这一个部分是不是一个我们可以普遍视为是已知的客观事实？好，那我想呢，我放一段啊，是加拿大著名临床心理医师Jordan Peterson 呢，他在一个座谈会上，他对于这样子的一个看法表达的意见，我们一起来听听看。
Drought, flooding, and ocean acidification, unanticipated for 65 million years, all result from climate change, according to over 700 of your fellow scientists. So I was wondering whether you thought climate change could be an issue that could unite us all on left and right, moving us beyond debates about C16 to discussions at the UN at Katowice next month, where perhaps humanity might finally discover its global map of meaning.
No. I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, the first reason is that I spent a lot of time reading. I worked for a UN committee for 2 years on sustainable economic and ecological development and read a very large amount during that period of time and learned a lot, much of which made me much more optimistic than I had been before I read the relevant literature, which was a real shock to me. But the climate change issue is an absolutely catastrophic, nightmarish mess, and the idea that that will unite us that's not going to unite us. I mean, first of all, it's very difficult to separate the science from the politics. And second, even if the more radical claims are true, we have no idea what to do about it. And so, no. And besides, it's even worse than that. Here's one of the worst things about the whole mess is, so as you project outwards with regards to your climate change projections, which are quite unreliable to begin with, and the unreliability of the measurement magnifies as you move forward in time, obviously, because the errors accumulate. And so if you go out 50 years, the error bars around the projections are already so wide that we won't be able to measure the positive or negative effects of anything we do right now. So how in the world are you going to solve a problem when you can't even measure the consequence of your actions? Like, how is that even possible? And besides that, well, what's the solution? What are we going to do? Switch to wind and solar? Well, good luck with that. Just try it and see what happens. We can't store the power. Germany tried it. They produced more carbon dioxide than they did when they started because they had to turn on their coal-fired plants again. That wasn't a very good plan. Well, we don't want nuclear. It's like, okay, what happens at night? The sun goes down. Well, isn't that something we should have taken into account? Oh, we got to flip on the coal-fired plants. Well, so it was a complete catastrophe, and all that happened was the price of electricity shot up. It was like zero utility. So that's not a solution. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we should cut back. We can't consume as much as we are all consuming. It's like, well, maybe, except the data that I've read indicate that if you can get the GDP of people up to about $5,000 a year, then they start caring about the environment, and the environment cleans up. So you could make a perfectly strong case, I think, and a reasonable one, perhaps even a humane one, that the actual idea would be to get everybody in the world who's poor, desperately so, out of poverty as fast as possible, which would increase consumption in the short term, because then they'd start to care about the environment and things would clean up. It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about global warming? Well, good luck figuring that out. I don't see a solution on the horizon. I look at Bjorn Lomborg's work. I really like Bjorn Lomborg. I think he's a real genius. You can look him up if you want. He took the UN millennial goals. There's 200 of them. That's way too many goals if you're serious about goals, by the way, because 200 goals isn't a plan. It's a wish list. You have to prioritize. I'm serious. You have to prioritize. but they won't prioritize because each of the goals has its constituents, and if you prioritize, then you irritate the constituents, but if you don't prioritize, then you can't implement the plan. So what Lomborg did was gather a teams of economists, multiple teams, some of whom were Nobel Prize-winning economists. He had them assemble teams. He had them rank order development goals in terms of their return on investment, all of the teams. Then he averaged across the teams and came up with a final list. And addressing global warming wasn't even on the list. The most fundamental, he wrote a book called How to Spend $75 Billion to Make the World a Better Place, and that's not very much money on a global scale. Almost everything that he recommended had to do with increased child nutrition in developing countries. It's like, these things are complicated, man. These are complicated. It's like, well, let's fix global warming. It's like, okay, well, good luck with that. First of all, how are you going to do that? And to think that will unite us, well, certainly not uniting us so far. So, no. And it's the kind of low-resolution thinking that just gets us absolutely nowhere. I like what Lomborg did way better. I think it's way more intelligent. So, maybe if you increase child nutrition enough and you produce another, 10 million geniuses as a consequence of that, and maybe one of them will figure out what to do about global warming. Well, I'm serious about that, It's not a bad thing to increase the total sum of human brain power, And so we treat these things so lightly. Well, let's fix the planet. Well, we're going to concentrate on global warming. Well, why global warming? Well, because everyone thinks that's the biggest catastrophe. Well, maybe it is, but if you don't have a solution, well, and then what about all those other problems? What are you going to do about them? Well, we'll ignore them because we can feel good about, being concerned about global warming. It's like, one of the reasons, there's more trees in the Northern Hemisphere than there were 100 years ago. No one knows that, but it's true, and by a substantial margin. You know why, in part? Because people burned coal instead of wood. It's like everyone says, well, we shouldn't burn coal. It's like, okay, fair enough. What do you want to do, burn trees instead? Because that's what poor people would have done. It's like, coal isn't good. Well, it's better than burning wood. So these things are complicated. So they're unbelievably complicated. And so, no, it's not going to unite us. And we're not going to do a damn thing about it either. So it doesn't really matter. So, well, what are we going to do? You're going to stop, having heat? You're going to stop having electricity? You're going to stop driving your cars? You're going to stop taking trains? It's like you're not. You're going to stop using your iPhones? You're not going to do any of that. And no wonder. So, no.
Thank you for that.
那你会发现这个议题其实一直是一个争议哈，为什么？因为到底畜牧业有没有实质造成所谓的二氧化碳排放量的增加，而进一步造成全球暖化？其实这个一直有两派说法哈。那有人认为畜牧业是元凶，可是呢，在目前很多的科学检测表明，就是过去地球的二氧化碳排放量，事实上并没有显著增加，而且它仍然占整个空气比重的 0.04%。也就是说，二氧化碳其实本来就不存在大气当中是一个大比例的一个气体。好，那也没有显著增加。那这个 0.04% 的二氧化碳真的是造成全球暖化的主因吗？好，但是呢，另一方面我必须说其实畜牧业真正造成温室效应的主因并不是二氧化碳。真正的问题，也是目前科学家比较认为的可能的因素是来自于甲烷，因为畜牧业所占的甲烷排放量是全球的这一个排放量的 35% 到 40%， 那一氧化二氮的话就占了 65%， 所以呢，很多专家就强调，就是说，其实甲烷才是导致于全球暖化的主要因素，因为它在5年内它就可以吸收比二氧化碳还要高100倍的热量。那这些甲烷大部分都是来自于牧场的奶牛，因为他们被喂食的是一些低质量的谷物，所以他们在消化不良或是胃胀气的情况下呢，其实他们甲烷的产量非常的多。那当然还有业者可能为了更大的牧养空间，不肖业者会砍伐森林，来饲养动物。那这一来一往之间的消长呢，就可能会导致这个气候的变化更剧烈。我是觉得这个议题其实值得我们持续的开放性的讨论以及关注。我觉得不管是极端的环保人士是不是想要用这些我们今天在影片上看到这样激烈的手段想引起人们的注意呢，这个姑且不说它是不是一个好的行为，但是我仍然都同意，就是我们该抱持着更开放的心态，多去评估我们人类的活动带来可能的全球暖化的影响。我觉得暂时我们都不要太快的去下结论，说到底是 有还是没有？好，因为上帝他把这个世界治理的工作确实从一开始就交给了人类，而我们人类除了求自身的生存的发展之外，我们的道德良知以及我们对于全球保护的意识，那个是所有生物都不会具备的，对吗？只有人类能够去思考地球的未来到底怎么样才是更能够永续发展的。所以我相信上帝给我们的智慧是要我们真的去关心爱护他所造的这些美好的资源，我们不能把这些大自然的礼物视作是白白的，所以你我都可以来更多持续关注，也欢迎你在下方来留言，一起来讨论你对这个议题的看法是什么。当然，如果你是因为呢想要削减这个畜牧业进而减少全球暖化而作为素食主义的支持者呢，我也非常非常的尊重，并且由衷的佩服。好，我们这边是超级神队友，我们就下部影片再见，拜拜。
Yes, we know the cornerstone is Christ alone.